and our team consists of Daphne, Bhumika, Mayan, Hamza, and Josh. And today we'll be talking about authoritarian regimes in developing countries. Before we get started, I'll give you a quick introduction to the topic as well as some keywords. Now, the first keyword that you need to know is what an authoritarian regime is. It's basically a government that concentrates political power in an authority that is not responsible to the people. This is usually at an expense of personal freedom, and there's a strict obedience to the government. It can be autocratic or oligarchy. Autocratic is when one person has most of the power, and oligarchy is when a small subset of the population has most of the power. The next term that we need to talk about is what a developing country is. A developing country is a country with a lower developed industrial base as well as a low human development index. A human development index is a combination of life expectancy, education, and other factors. Most of the time, these countries tend to be agricultural countries that want to become more advanced economically and socially as well. So the main areas of discussion that we'll be looking at is authoritarianism throughout history, democracy versus authoritarianism, and we'll be looking at some of the course content. And we'll also look at the societal and economical impacts of authoritarianism on developing countries, as well as the technological impact. And we've also prepared an interview to give you a further outlook on what it might be to live in an authoritarian regime.
Authoritarianism has been a part of human civilizations for a very long time. There have always been groups trying to control people, and some groups have been more extreme than the others. For example, one of the most extreme cases of authoritarian government is that of Adolf Hitler during the World War I and World War II periods, which led to the deaths of millions of innocent civilians. Authoritarianism is still present in our present day. For example, with North Korea being the most prominent example, followed by Syria and Chad. These countries have an average rating of 0 for these countries have a 0 rating for civil liberties, functional governments, and electoral processes, as per study by the Economist Intelligence Unit.
This is Bhumika, and on this slide, I'll be talking about the differences between democracy and authoritarianism. So in a democracy, leaders are generally chosen such that they truly represent the people's interests, and this is done through a fair and honest election, whereby the citizens may collectively express their choice of leader. And in democracies, they truly listen to the people and aim to address their needs, and they're generally held at regular intervals. And these elections furthermore ensure that those in power cannot extend their term without the consent of the people. And citizens are encouraged to participate by being informed about public issues, and they're freely allowed to express their opinions on these issues. And in a nutshell, democracy respects the basic freedoms and rights of the people. Whereas on the other hand, authoritarianism often does not hold elections, or they take the choice away from the people to vote, so essentially they have rigged elections. And when the public disagrees with the dictator's decision, it's usually seen as public rebellion, and all the decision making is limited to what the dictator actually wants, the dictator's wishes itself. And as a result, the authoritarianism government does not respect the freedoms and rights of the people.
Hi, my name is Daphne Chelebi, and in this slide I'm going to talk about how authoritarianism impacts society in developing countries. As Bhumika mentioned in the previous slide, most authoritarian regimes does not respect basic rights and freedoms of individuals. More specifically, I'm going to talk about how it impacts freedom of speech, assembly, and religion. Beginning with freedom of speech, most individuals are unable to speak out against government in developing countries. They don't have a right to raise their voice and share their opinions. For example, in democratic countries, citizens are able to speak up against government. However, in developing countries, if citizens speak up against the government, they get punishments such as jail and etc. The second point I'm going to talk about is freedom of assembly. In developing countries, citizens are unable to get together and organize protests against the government. For example, the North Korean constitution has clauses guaranteeing the freedoms of speech and assembly. However, in practice, other clauses take precedence, including the requirement that citizens follow the socialist way of life. As you can see, authoritarian regimes controls and restricts rights and freedoms in which other countries consider as basic rights, and it has a negative impact on society as a whole.
Hi, my name is Josh. Impact in developing countries. A study by researchers of the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology and Victoria University in Melbourne analyzed the economic data performances of both authoritarian and democratic leaders. They analyzed data from 133 countries between 1858 to 2010 and found that autocrats were either damaging or inconsequentially responsible for the economic downfalls of their countries. In the majority of cases, countries led by autocrats, whether benevolent or otherwise, were found to have worse economic outcomes in terms of growth than democracies. And not just in short term, they were also found that they were linked to delays in growth and were not able to bear fruit from their autocratic rule. Additionally, growth is not the only economic metric in which autocrats failed to deliver, as they were also fell short in employment, health, and educational spending.
Hello, my name is Al-Atari, and in this section we'll be talking about how technology and authoritarian regimes interact. So essentially, technology can both aid and prevent authoritarian regimes maintaining their control. One aspect of that is with the rapid development of new technologies, governments are not always able to maintain control over those technologies. Furthermore, technologies can also be leveraged to increase surveillance on citizens. In this section, we'll be talking about how technology empowers authoritarian regimes. Currently, due to the high level of sophistication and aggregation of data, it is simpler and more effective to use this data to surveil, manage, and control the opinions of citizens. With the addition of intelligent and more accurate artificial intelligence, this can be used to leverage the technology to increase the scale at which you can capture data, increase the scale at which you can analyze data, in addition to leads to more effective methods of control, and it allows regimes to react quicker. Technology can not only help authoritarian regimes, but it can also help citizens escape the regimes. New technology provides unparalleled privacy and encryption to prevent surveillance. Examples such as Signal and Telegram are messaging applications that have end-to-end encryption, which ensures only the receiver and sender can read the message. Furthermore, technologies can help provide encrypted cross-border communication, such as the Tor network, which helps citizens in countries where there's no public internet to send communication outside of their borders. Furthermore, cryptocurrencies are also a new method of sending payments and also messages through encrypted channels that are distributed systems, which ensures no single bottleneck can prevent communication. Furthermore, regimes can also impact the growth of technologies. For example, if a regime deems that a certain technology goes against their wishes, they can choose to either reduce the growth of it or outright ban the technology in their country. In addition, regimes can also control the innovation of certain technologies. For example, the regimes can use AI for purposes of surveillance only and only fund that development.
So now we're going to be interviewing Yazan. So Yazan is someone who grew up in Yemen during the time when Yemen was under authoritarian rule. Yazan is going to be sharing their personal experiences and what are some of the challenges that they faced. So now we're going to be...
When I was in Yemen, I did not feel free to express myself. There were constant riots which were stopped by police brutality. The government was abusing their power and people of higher ranks were just able to steal stuff from people. There was injustice, especially against minorities. All this corruption led to poor economy and led many people to leave the country.